Welcome to Love Them Knives channel. Yeah, SRM. SRM, Sanrenmu, Real Steel, all three, to my knowledge, related companies, kind of like We Knives, Civivi, and Sencut. SRM, what my understanding was this was a line of Sanrenmu knives that were made for export, so they were a little bit higher end than the initial Sanrenmu knives were. Um, and that's back in the day. I mean, if you go back about 7 years, whatever, then the Sanrenmu knives, and they were good user knives, but probably not as sophisticated as these, although there's some good Sanrenmu knives out there. But this is SRM Group, and this is an interesting knife. This is the Rubik, and this one's the large one. So this is 8 inches overall length, 3.5 inch blade. The standard size Rubik, or 7228. Okay, if it doesn't say L on the end, then it's not the large. It's 7228. That's like a 2.75, 2.8 inch blade. This is 3.5 inch blade. Okay, 8 inches overall length. And if I can find where I threw my tape measure, then I'd show you. And here we are. 3.5 inch blade at about 90 millimeters overall length, right at 8 inches, which is 20.5 centimeters. Okay. So it's fairly lightweight and slender, and that's nice as well. And this one looks to be in my Carta. Yeah, 0.45. So that's like within, right there, the range of a paramilitary 2, Spyderco PM2, 11.6 millimeters. A lot of knives are 12 millimeter or over, 3 millimeter blade stock, 0.11. Okay. So yeah, and it's got the Ambi lock, and I've done one of these before, but it was in VG10. Okay. And then now the way they're talking about them is that they're doing them in a different steel. Okay. Now let's take a look at what they're saying on the steel. And it's 10 CR 15 CO MOV. Okay. And where's the stat stuff? It's in here somewhere. Okay. Right here, equivalent to VG10. And yes, I mean, if you look it up online or, Google it, whatever, and you look at that, yes, it's pretty much a VG10 equivalent. So I don't understand that this was being done in VG10, and you can still buy this knife in VG10 on Blade HQ. I saw one in yellow G10, that kind of thing. All right. Or this new, 10 CR. So 10 CR, 10 is like it's 0.95 to 1.1% carbon. And then, of course, 15 is the chromium level, so 15% chromium. There's a little bit of vanadium in it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very corrosion resistant. And it's got the Ambi lock and the Ambi clip, which are interesting because this knife is really easy to flick. It's really easy to open up because it's basically got the Omega springs, okay, that it's working on both sides. So a lot like the Benchmade, uh, system, and the piston locks. What else do they call them? Ambi lock. What is this? Slide lock. A lot of different, arc lock. Well, no, the arc locks XR. No, not the XR. So there's a lot of different mechanisms like this that function pretty much the same way. So the axis lock, of course, from Benchmade, kind of got it all started, and then all this sprang up. And of course, the axis lock has lost its patent 3 years ago or so, whatever. So a lot of this going on. Actually, for no more than it costs. I mean, the hardware looks pretty reasonable, but this is just another knife that you might want to consider it if you look for budget knife options out there. I mean, there's Civivi and there's Sencut and there's CJRB and there's this, there's that, there's the other. Okay, so here's the little plastic that it comes in, and then they give you a drawstring pouch in here. So I mean, it's a basic, very basic budget knife. And then they give you their little paperwork thing where they've got some other kind of stuff. Get you one of them multi-function shovels. And then here, of course, different folding knives that they have. And I've had all of these in my hand at one time or another. Okay. So there's that, just to kind of update you on what's there. So yeah, I haven't seen a lot of new stuff coming out from SRM recently. So maybe they'll put it in gear and get some more things put out there. But this is definitely a contender for just an all-around budget carry knife because it's so ambidextrous, and it is ambidextrous. It's ambidextrous this way, okay? So left hand, right hand, easy with the Ambi lock. And then, of course, you've got the tail clip. Well, this pocket clip, tail clip, whatever, is interesting because you can quick flip this. And here's what happens. You see this split here, but you push these together, and inside you're freeing yourself from what's holding it in, because once these push down and it clicks, there's a little area inside that these expand into, and then they're locked into that. It's not moving, okay? But once you push them together and you get them centered in the middle there, you can see that, then it'll pull right out. And then you can put this clip right down the other side. Now it's set up for left-hand carry. Okay, so however you want to do that. Isn't that nice? I mean, that's pretty ingenious, actually, especially if you're a lefty and you want to just flip the clip, but you're not handy with a whole bunch of having to do the tools and stuff to unscrew it. Here you go, right? Nice, relatively not too thin of a blade, and it's got a pretty decent edge coming out of the box. So nothing too, nothing too crazy. It's not scary sharp, but it's about a standard factory edge. And it's a satin grind. Plunge looks symmetrical. The lockup is solid. No play that way. You've got, of course, these ambidextrous thumb studs, Ambi clip, Ambi lock, Ambi everything, right? Maybe billboarding a little bit, okay, but I don't really hold that against a knife company. They want their logo out there. But this one, yeah, I like it because it's a full-size knife, so I got plenty of room for my fingers on it. Lanyard hole is tubed, so they took the trouble to do that, and of course put a backspacer on it. And then, of course, you have nested liners in here, okay? And they're skeletonized as well. So go figure, right? I mean, you're not in bad stead there. And there is a little breakaway here. So putting it on your strop or your sharpening or whatever, then you're not banging up against in here or something when you're sharpening that. Yeah, and it shouldn't be difficult to sharpen, right? So, because it's a VG10 equivalent, so it's not a super steel, etc. And this is kind of nice, this little fuller they run down here to kind of break up the flow of the blade there. And, you know, design flow, pretty good. Blade to handle length, pretty decent. Did this little Jazzamo right here on the front and the back. Give it that look. But yeah, I think they actually said that in their paperwork here, something about Rubik's Cube, Magic Cube, never let you down. Sometimes it's fun to read these because you know it's somebody in China trying to, and they're not quite well versed in American use of language and culture necessarily. So it's kind of fun to read them and you know, say, man, they could hire me. I could definitely translate better. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this is part of the SRM line, and there's some other SRMs that I have reviewed. And check out the links down below. I'm going to put the links to the other SRM knives, and I've tested them on not my. I wish I had an XRF analyzer. I don't. If I did, I'd be zapping everything, right? But I've tested these before for, is it the real as advertised? And yes, it's always been the real as advertised. But then Real Steel, Sanrenmu, SRM, yeah, I mean, you'd expect that, right? But this is definitely fidget friendly stuff. You can thumb roll it, you can finger flick it, you can just do this. And like I said, ergos are comfortable. It's relatively slender. It's pretty damn lightweight. And so you're in good shape there. Let me throw it on the scale. Yeah, 3.5 ounces. I mean, what more do you want, right? Yeah, right there at 100 grams. Okay. So when it's at or below 100 grams, that's a pretty light knife, especially since this is a full size 8-inch knife. So, wow, would that be tough to spin off? No, guess not. I was just gonna pop this open to show you a couple of things that you may or may not be interested in seeing. And there it is. It's stuck to my bit. There you go. Well, that's good. That's good. Be stuck to that. So here comes the scale. You see how this thing pops in here? So it's tougher to see with these scales like this. You see this little channel that it runs through here. I'm hitting it on both sides. But when these little arrow and they get in, then they expand open like that. And they don't let it come back out, okay? Until you squeeze it together, and then you could hang up on one side or the other. So you got to kind of center it in between, wiggle it a little to find your center, and then you can pull it out and do that, right? So there's your clip. And then these are your Omega springs, and they just hook around this piston and in here. And if you take this one out on this side, you're going to have to take the scale off on this side. And the problem here is that there should be an opening on this side too. That'd make it easier to take the scales off from both sides and disassemble this. But they don't do it and this is a lot like Benchmade. So it makes it a bigger, more fiddly pain in the butt to take this apart, because you got to take this Omega spring, then you got to roll this. You can't roll this piston back through this area here until you take this scale off. So that means you got to push this pivot through, because you got no way of unscrewing this. And you got to unscrew that. Then you can pull this part out, and then you've just got the two liners with this. And you got to take the Omega spring off the other side, and then you're good to go. But yeah, it makes it real fiddly that way. But oh yeah, so I was showing you that. But yes, this is the catchment here. So you've got this little area here, but also, yeah, this area here which gets together and catches your pocket clip, because otherwise this would be really, you know, easy to rattle around and stuff. But yes, because this and this work together to make that pocket clip hold right there, and firm. So it does a great job that way. And, you know, if you look inside this as well, you're going to see, yeah, we're talking about a washer in here. Okay, not bearings, just in case you were interested. And if you look down here, you can see this is a captured pivot. Okay, so it's captured there. They don't give you an entryway here. And so this is different than like the Kaiser clutch lock. And if you notice the Kaiser clutch lock knives, they have an entryway here as well. So you can take the scale off from the front, the scale off from the back, and end up with that sandwich of liners and this piston and springs, omega springs together. And then you can disassemble. When you reassemble, you can do all that and still not have to worry about, you know, how you're going to fiddle around and get this through, especially since those clutch lock knives have bearings and stuff. So it's, you know, look at my one on the Kaiser Escort with disassembly. I show you the disassembly. It's a lot easier than the axis lock type knives that don't have access in the front to take the front scale off. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. So the final of the reassembly, of course, is because you got the scale with the liner in there that are going to accept your little Ambi lock or Ambi clip. And there you go. And you're solid. I mean, you can push this together and you can move that a little bit. You got to be able to do that a little bit to kind of wiggle it out of that and get it out in that channel to pull it out. But it ain't going to go far. It's pretty solid. And one thing for sure, I just tightened this down, you know, and I tightened it too much. Say you're on washers, you're not on bearings. So you're going to have to be careful about, and I probably still got a little bit much on it. Okay, just snug it barely. Okay. Okay. And we're fine. It's just, yeah, we're fine. It's just one of those things. When you're on washers, you can tighten it down so tight you can't even open the knife. So you're going to have to make that adjustment. But yeah, there's no play in there. And we got the Rubiks. And this is the large one. So you can get it in G10. You can get it with a PVD coated blade. You can get it whatever, in different colors, etc. Just a reminder, they're out there and they're a choice as well. A pretty good choice, I think. We do love them knives. You guys, stay sharp.